Welcome to the NWR Resources virtual series. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and up with me today we've got Sipa Resources. The managing director is Pip Darvall. I hope I said that right, Pip. Sipa is an Australian minerals exploration company, and they've got gold and base metals projects in Western Australia. That is definitely a Western Australian road that I can see on your first slide there, Pip. Welcome to the series. Great to see you. And take us through the Sipa Resources story.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Kerry. And I'll just tell you that road is the access road into our Paterson North project that's in joint venture with Rio Tinto Exploration. So, yeah, it's very typical WA scene there, the kind of red sand, a few big termite mounds you can see there as well, if you look closely. So,
yeah, right in the background there. Yep.
Yeah. Some of those are huge, actually. They'd be over my height. And in other parts of the WA, they're even taller. But yeah, probably the only feature for a lot of the area out there. Okay, let's kick it off then. Okay, so standard disclaimer. So basically, seek your own financial advice. And Kerry, I know I was trying to convince you to buy Sipa shares while we were offline there. So you have to seek other advice other than mine.
And read that disclaimer. All right.
Read the disclaimer. So as you mentioned, Sipa's focused on its gold and base metal projects, predominantly here in Western Australia. We've got 6 projects there you can see on that map. We do also have another nickel copper project in Uganda that's currently on care and maintenance, but we are only really working at the moment the projects here in Western Australia. So we've got some near-term news flow opportunities that are mentioned there with assays awaited from drilling on our Murchison project. Also the Warralong Gold Project, we've got some assays that are currently being processed, and another drill program just started there over the weekend. And Paterson North, we just recently completed an IP survey over some of the country very similar to that photo that we saw earlier. And we're using that data to target some drilling planned for next year. And at Wolfe Basin, we've got all the preparations ready for drilling some pretty exciting IP targets. So there's plenty of news flow coming up, and hopefully with some good results from the assays. Okay, a bit of a corporate snapshot there. We recently completed a capital raise, so there's just over 200 million shares on issue post that capital raise. A few options. Share price around about the 5.5 cents gives us a market cap around just over 11 million. And the cash figure there was at 30 June. It doesn't include a spend, obviously, since then, and it doesn't include the capital raise. So, enterprise value, around about the $7 million. The board's mentioned there, and you can see our share price just been kind of bouncing along, I'd say bouncing along the bottom. I've been a buyer of shares on market this year, as have the other directors, and we, subject to shareholder approval, participated in the recent capital raise. So we certainly think there's value in the company. Okay, so, what do we see the investment opportunity as? Why are directors buying shares? We've very, very much leveraged exploration success. We're testing a number of very greenfield style exploration projects, areas that haven't been drilled previously, areas with good geological merit, technically driven targets. And so we're testing these, and success in any of those areas would give us a significant re-rating and create value for shareholders. I'll go into the details of all the specific projects, as we work through the presentation. But, key message really is that we've got a number of projects in Western Australia that we're actively exploring and actively testing good targets on. So Warralong is a project located in the Pilbara region of Western Australia, not far from Port Hedland. It's where I mentioned we just commenced drilling on the weekend, our second drill program there. And it covers about 50 kilometres length of a large shear zone called the Lallaruk Shear Zone. you'll see on the right-hand side of the image there. And we're targeting intrusion-hosted gold and lithium, tin, tantalum pegmatites in the project. Covers about 1,000 square kilometres, so it's a pretty big area. And we believe this is an analogous geological setting to the Tabba Tabba shear zone located to the west of us. And that shear zone is very highly mineralised. And there's a number of mineral deposits along that shear zone. And we see no reason why similar type of deposits shouldn't be found on the Lalorook shear zone. And the reason that they haven't been found today is basically because it's been untested.
Pip, have you done any work in Warralong at the moment? It's part of your projects. Have you done any sort of soil sampling or geochem up there at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So we did, while we were waiting for that package to go to grant, we did a detailed air mag survey over the area and identified some targets there, which we drill tested in September with our first air core program on part of that area. Okay. That I'll show you in the next image. And then we're currently testing with our second drill program, that's kicked off on the weekend. So if I just flip to the next slide, you'll see that's a close-up of the tenement package that we've got. Two of the tenements are granted, and they're with those kind of reddish outlines. And the first drill program that I mentioned is on that one down to the kind of south, E45 5687, and the one we're currently drilling on is further to the east, E45 5740. So what we're doing there with that drilling is, I guess, we believe that the Lalorook shear zone, these big, see the big black lines there on the image. I'll just get the pointer up here. Let's have a look. And so you can see, so this is the trace of the Lalorook shear zone, and then some of these big black lines are structures that come off that shear zone. And what we're doing is we're testing the basement rocks that in this area are obscured by thin cover and therefore haven't previously been seen by explorers and certainly haven't been drilled. So we identified a range of targets that we're currently testing. We tested those, first round of targets on this tenement September, and now we're doing targets over here. At the same time as testing the targets, we're also just compiling basic geological information, what kind of rock types are there in the first place. And the drill programs we're doing are air core, relatively shallow holes, relatively quick and inexpensive to undertake, and it gives us a first pass look at the rock types. And as I mentioned, we're awaiting the assays from the first drill program and the second program currently underway, so assays will follow from that. Actually, one thing that's also interesting in this image, you can see here, I mean, this is a magnetic image here, and what you can see is obviously there's light and dark areas, so there's a fair bit of complexity there. And previously this area had been regarded as pretty boring, featureless granite, and therefore kind of not really worthy of much exploration. But when you look at this image, you can see that obviously there's a fair bit more variation. There's funny blobs like this. What's that? Nobody knows because it hasn't been tested before and it's all undercover. Shallow cover, so it's actually relatively inexpensive to test. So we're looking in this area for interesting intrusives and dilation zones in bends and in faults like this, where mineralised fluids can be focused and bring and result in mineral deposits. So that's our goal. Test that, and we'll obviously keep people updated.
Pip, before you just move off that slide, that drilling that commenced down to the south, the E45, I think it is, was that drilling on those on that sort of those black areas, and how deep was it?
Sure. So we were testing some of these black areas, also some other structures that kind of come in this direction as well, and as well some other features you can't see just because of the it's a very small image. I mean, that's 20 kilometres across there. You can't see it in this image, but a range of features that look like very interesting intrusions. And the ranged anywhere from 4 metres down to about 40 metres depth. That was the hole depth, and the cover is anything from a couple of metres down to about 25 metres of cover.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just move along. So that was the Warralong project. Paterson North, that's another project. People have probably heard of the Paterson area. It was pretty newsworthy about a year or so ago, based all around the discovery by Rio Tinto of Winu, a large copper gold deposit. They're currently moving forward to development. And so we entered into a joint venture agreement with Rio Tinto Exploration mid last year, and Sipa is operating that project on as part of that deal, where Rio need to spend $6 million to earn 55% interest, with a minimum of $3 million and significant drilling before they are able to actually withdraw.
Nice.
And then, significant funds after that to gradually earn higher levels of interest in the joint venture. I guess some positives about this project are that it is, very close to Winu. You can see the location there. Sipa's tenure in orange here. Winu located just to the west, southwest of that. And Rio, obviously, as the discoverers of Winu, know a lot about the district. So they're a great partner to have from a technical perspective. But they're also very motivated to make another discovery in the district to bolster the economics of Winu itself. So great partners to have. We've been working together really, really well. And it's been progressing very well. A few more details on what we've been doing on that project this year. As the operator, Sipa is managing the current phase of exploration. And so far we've completed an airborne EM survey to add to what Sipa had already done. And then most recently just completed a very large gradient array IP, so another type of geophysical survey over this area here. And so that area, it's about 15 by 40 kilometres, something like that. So very large area survey completed. And once again, it's a different type of geophysical technique, and we'll use the results from that, combine them with the EM, and that will help us determine the best locations to locate our drilling plan for next year. And this type of technique that we've just completed was also previously successful at identifying sulfides at Obelisk, which was a prospect that has gold and copper mineralisation that Sipa had previously identified. So all the preparatory work's been done to help zero in on best places to drill, and the plan is to be drilling in 2022 in the next field season. So let's move on to another project of ours. This is located a bit further south in the Murchison, just near Meekatharra. So Meekatharra, a well-known mining centre here in Western Australia, has the advantage of a number of operations in the district, currently working, several mills, and we've got quite a large ground package, as you can see there, in this red and black, kind of around the Meekatharra area. And we're at this project where it's very much a gold-focused project, and we're systematically following up historic mineralised trends that people have seen in previous work. And we're still, unfortunately, I have to say, awaiting assays from our July program. About 3,500 metres of air core we completed there, and the assay turnaround time is basically woeful at the moment. No other way to describe it, unfortunately. And so results are still awaited from that.
Everyone's got the same issue, Pip.
Look, everyone's got the same problem. No point whinging too hard about it. And it's, I guess, a consequence of people being busy, border challenges for moving people and supplies backwards and forwards and so on. But anyway, it is as it is. So that's a bit of an overview of the Murchison. Wolfe Basin is a project located in the southern Kimberleys, and this is a base metals project. And again, a very large package of ground here. It really this is a great example of Sipa's typical approach, where we've got typically take a large ground position and work up projects from grassroots kind of level, and things that typically appeal to major companies, things with very large upside potential. And in this case, we've got a whole Proterozoic basin there. We're chasing sediment-hosted base metals using a model similar to that applies to the deposits found in the African copper belt. And everything we've done to date supports that. I'll show you a little bit of a cartoon model in a second. And we've got about 40, probably more like 60 kilometres of prospective stratigraphy and some gossans at surface, base metals in soils, all this kind of good stuff. So plenty of indications that what we're chasing, there's strong potential for a discovery here. So I'll just flip to this next image, which is our little cartoon. Shows the mineralisation model. And what you've got here in this image is in that kind of yellowish colour, they're porous sandstone. So think of like a sponge where fluids can move through that. Give them a bit of a squeeze, the water flows through the sponge. In this case, the water is bearing metals. In this case, we believe base metals. And then as it moves through the sponge and moves upward, here at this point, it'll come in contact with a reactive rock type, shales or carbonates, and the metals that have been carried through the sponge hit this, and there's a chemical reaction at the contact, and all in theory, of course, they drop out as sulfides. Now, what we see exactly at this contact, exactly where you'd expect to find it, at the surface, we find these gossans. They're quite extensive. In one area, they're 1.6 k's long, and then just down yeah, so it's pretty large. And then another, couple of k's to the south, there's one about 600 metres long. And going with the Wolfe Basin thing, we've called these two prospects Romulus and Remus, and we've drill tested one of them. So what you see in these gossans is that they're not just brown coloured rock. They've actually got base metal anomalism here, nearly 0.5% lead, 0.3% zinc, and some copper. And we followed that up with drilling, and with assays up to 0.5% copper and just under 3% lead. And that was targeting an area like this in the model. And one other point I guess to make is that this is one kind of location where these fluids can drop out, have this chemical reaction. But there are other places higher up in the basin, further this way to the east, where we believe there's other horizons where this could also occur. So I'll just show you a bit of our drilling from last year. So if you remember back to that last image, we had the yellow sponge kind of rocks here, porous, allow the fluids to move through. Fluids come up, hit these reactive rocks, in this case, the dolomite, and they drop out and as sulfide. So right on this contact where we see the gossan at surface, when you follow that gossan down dip on the contact between those two rocks, the drilling shows, yes, it still exists. We weren't able to actually get down to where that contact is fresh, but there's that contact, that kind of gossiness at surface, this oxidized contact between the two rocks follows down dip, and then within the dolomite itself, there's plenty of quartz carbonate veins, lots of pyrite, and we get those lead, zinc, and copper anomalism here. So basically, what we've done in the drilling is confirm the exploration model. We've got the right package of rocks there above this kind of oxidized contact with the sandstone, and there's abundant pyrite and calcite veining here within the dolomite. So this is the kind of thing you'd expect to see around the edges of this style of deposit, and very typical to get a kind of pyrite halo. And what we've subsequently done is a big IP survey, so another geophysical survey, plug some giant electrodes in the ground, blast it with some serious current, and you can determine if there's something chargeable like these sulfides below the surface. So we've done that survey, and I'll show you here on the next slide what you get. So lovely kind of image of the kind of bullseye target thing here. So this is the same section in that last image of the drilling. You can see the drilling, it looks like it's clipped the edge of this anomaly here. And what our goal is now is to test that with the hole smack bang through the middle of it like that. And in a similar manner, this is a section immediately to the north, a couple of 100 metres to the north, same kind of thing. It looks like we've got just near the edge. We've got our best metal numbers in the drilling. We're just off the edge of this thing. And so now we've done all the preparations for drilling, got all the sumps ready, tracks cleared, and as of today, drill rig secured to actually go and drill these targets. So, X marks the spot, or there's the big bullseye. So we want to test some drilling, and we're hoping to do that in November, or possibly even before the end of this month, if the stars align for us.
Okay, just coming up to full-time, Pip.
Sure, no problem. Look, I'll just, we've got a couple of other projects, but, I guess the key thing key takeaway for people is that we've got half a dozen projects here in Western Australia. We've got a number of great targets that we're testing, and we're doing a lot of drilling because it's really drilling that's going to make the difference. You can have all these great ideas, but unless you find out the reality of what's underneath the ground, what these targets really represent, then you're not going to actually create value. So our goal is to do as much drilling as possible, testing the targets that on the projects I mentioned previously, and in the future it'll be skeleton rocks down in the goldfields, and then later on Barbwire Terrace here as well, which is a base metals project as well. So we're basically here at Sipa, I keep saying the same thing around here. We're either preparing to drill or we're drilling. We're trying to actually test these targets as quickly and efficiently as possible. And as a result, well, that's our way of trying to add value here to our projects. Test the targets and move on. So plenty of news flow coming up as a result of the work on our various projects. Still waiting for assays at 2 projects there, Murchison and Warralong. We're currently drilling at Warralong on that second tenement we talked about. We'll be doing finalising the targets at Paterson North for drilling next year. Wolfe Basin, we're ready to drill those IP targets, those lovely bullseye targets I showed you earlier. And that looks like happening within the next month. And then we've just finished gravity work at Barbwire Terrace. Heritage survey starting next week, and that'll lead into drilling. So yeah, plenty to follow over the coming weeks and months. And yeah, looking forward to being able to report some exciting outcomes.
Now, Pip, we've kind of run out of time, but I really want to ask you this question because there was a lot to cover there. And I really want to, excuse the pun, drill down a little bit deeper with some of them. So I might call you another time. But I want to know, which of your projects do you see as being the front runner for a discovery, which will lead to hopefully bringing value into the share price?
100%. Sure. So look, we get asked this question a lot because people's, we're like attention deficit disorder company with too many projects. But we've got half a dozen really terrific projects with great targets on all of them. Right now, Warralong is 100% the front runner because we're currently drilling, and the targets there are for intrusion hosted gold, e.g. Hemi, which is on that parallel shear zone 50 k's to the west of us, and lithium, tin, tantalum, pegmatites. So we've got great targets, some hot commodities to drill into, and we're drilling right now.
Well, whenever the drill bit gets in the ground, ladies and gentlemen, you know that the news is coming. Pip Darvall, thank you so much for joining us at the NWR Virtual Resources Series. We look forward to lots of news flow in the near future.
Thanks very much, Kerry.